to do is show you how to create your own traditional manuscript grid. The first series of steps will be using lines to help bisect and divide not only the spread but each individual page into smaller units until we can find the exact points where the text block will begin and end and be positioned on the page. So the first step we'll do is we will create a couple of lines that's going to bisect this spread, and those lines go from the bottom left-hand corner to the top right-hand corner and the bottom right-hand corner to the top left-hand corner of the entire spread, so you make a giant X. The next two lines will bisect the individual pages, so one line will bisect the left-hand side of the spread and the other line will bisect the right hand side of the spread, and those lines will go from the bottom left hand corner to the right hand corner of the left hand side of the page and the bottom right hand corner to the top left hand corner of the right side of the page. The next couple of lines will take the intersection of the lines that you've created here and here and go vertically straight up and bisect those two lines right there. And the final two lines will create what I call a bow tie in the center. They go from the top left to the bottom right and the top right to the bottom left of those green lines. And now you can then create your text block from this point right here, and you drag your box all the way until it hits this bisecting line, and then you drag your box down the page until you hit this bisecting line, and that will become your text block, both on the right hand side of the page, which is called the recto, and the left hand side of the page, which is called the verso. And this is what it would look like. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to try and open up your own InDesign document and create these series of lines and see if you can figure out the size and position and placement for your text block for this traditional manuscript grid. In this video, I'd like to talk about another method to make a manuscript grid, and this is called the consistent format grid or the modern manuscript grid. And you can get a very similar result as the traditional manuscript grid. Before I move on to the modern manuscript grid, I want to recap this traditional manuscript grid and let you know that this particular method, where you can use these bisecting angles, can work for any size document. And this particular grid works best or most optimally if your document size also conforms to the golden section. But it's not necessary that it conforms to the golden section. It's nice if you want extra control over your document, but it's not necessary. And in our modern day, we rarely have document sizes that conform to this traditional size requirements. Our standard sizes in the United States are much different. And so if you don't want to take the time to build a traditional manuscript grid, which will work in all circumstances, you can do a modern manuscript grid. And it's much simpler, and it's a process of using lines, just like before, to subdivide each individual page. And you create an X on each page, and that's the entire grid. And you can create a text block that goes from one line, and you drag it over until you hit the next line, and you drag it down until you hit this line, and that is your text block. Now, if you want your text block to be a little bit smaller, you can still conform to starting at the left X here, this line that bisects the page, and drag your text block till it hits this line, and then drag the text block down till you hit this line. And most designers, if they choose this method, will then slightly move their box up and slightly out from that original layout so that you can have a little less space above, a little more space below, and then a little more space on the interior if this document gets bound, because some of this space will get eaten up when you bind your document. And so to give the illusion that this text block is centered in the page, you move it up a little and a little over a little. And your vendor will usually give you the live area or the safe area for where this text block can exist. And sometimes they can even let you know how much gutter space on the interior will get eaten up when you bind your document. So you can think about that for when you place your text block. So what I'd like you to do now is I would like you to test out this particular method, the modern manuscript method, and use that to find the scale and position for your text block. And in the next video, we'll be talking about the golden section and how the golden section can then apply to your designs.